everyone. Welcome to People Point, National HRD Network's Pune chapter's flagship interview series, where we interact with senior professionals from all walks of life and sectors, exploring the latest trends, insights, and perspectives shaping our world. We started People Point with a twofold mission: to serve as a discussion platform where leaders across various walks of life from diverse industries can converge to share their experiences, and we can create an open knowledge source that transcends geographical boundaries, offering insights into concepts and practices of people management. For today's discussion, we have Commander Girish Konkar, the CEO of Beyond Horizons. Having embarked on a journey of self-discovery and service after retiring from the Indian Navy in 2004, our guest here started his own consultancy firm, fostering into leadership development and organizational excellence. He has over 2 decades of transformational leadership experience, where he has led various interventions and coaching engagements for senior management companies of prestigious Fortune 500 teams. He is a multifaceted personality, and he is, of course, multifaceted in terms of his learnings as well. He masters in outbound simulations, NLP techniques, and basically is a transformation analyst when it comes to leadership. He is a specialist in igniting change at the core, and this he does primarily by coaching and coaching for mind and attitude transformation. There's so much to say. Commander Girish, it's overwhelming for me to read, so I'll hand it over to you. If I have missed something, maybe you should kind of say.
It will be a pleasure.
Yeah, great. So we'll quickly delve into what we are discussing today, and I think we have a very interesting topic that we thought we will kind of check with you. We wanted to know what have been the latest trends when it comes to leadership, first to start with, and of course these days it's difficult times for leadership because the economy is not doing that great. So we really need a lot of emotional intelligence for a leader to thrive and prosper. So let's start first with your views on that bit, and then we will kind of take it forward.
Right. So firstly, thank you very much for having this podcast and inviting me for this interview. It's a great pleasure. I've always been working with NHRD people for last, in fact, 20 years. I became a member of NHRD 20 years back, and then beautiful, wonderful programs NHRD conducts, and I've been fortunate to attend some of them and interact with many HR professionals. So once again, thank you very much. And coming to the leadership challenges that keep happening, I would say the challenges have always been there. The underlying challenge of a leader is always about how to handle his or her emotions. The world is topsy-turvy. It's always been topsy-turvy. The semantics might change, the specific situation might change, but if you go back into time, whatever length of time one wants to go back into, there have always been challenges. There could be economic challenges, there could be medical challenges, there could be organizational challenges. There are challenges galore, and leadership is the one which can flourish in any challenge. A leader is somebody who can take on those challenges with a smiling face or a serious face, take his or her team along on those challenging journeys, and come out on tops at the other end and say, okay, that was tough. We had a very tough time, but we got through it, and tomorrow is another day, and still have a smile on the face. And that's why you need leadership. To get that smile on the face, despite the challenges, is one of the major leadership roles, I would say. It's very easy to have hard taskmasters. You put a stick behind a person and that person will work. But at the end of it, will that person have a smile on his face or her face? That is a leadership challenge. So I hope that gives that answer.
Right. So how does one as a leader, and I hear you say that it's always with a smile that a leader can take his team forward, or for that matter, commander his ship like you did, right? how does one really navigate these periods of uncertainty and change? I mean, there's always times when you doubt others, but more importantly, what is more difficult for leaders to navigate is when they start doubting their own self. How does that work out?
Okay, so I would like to take you back to a little bit of basics of leadership for that, because it's not there is no, what do you say, a standard template that one can say is available for a leader to apply and therefore I say I've changed. See, we are all made of, there are two minds. There is a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. And as we are all aware, the subconscious mind is a very powerful mind. It's they say it's about 95% of the time we operate in a subconscious environment. Only 5% we work in a conscious way. So to say that in a situation, how should I react? Uh, Unfortunately, the conscious mind is too slow to really take charge of the situation. It's the subconscious mind that does everything. And the reason for that is our prehistorical, the way the mankind has been designed. So maybe some 50,000, 1 lakh years ago, when we started evolving, we were all more focused on a subconscious mind because that is the mind for survival. And we became that. I'll maybe later on go more into it as to how that works, but it works very fast. And since childhood, the subconscious mind has been trained to operate in a particular way. And therefore, as we grow up and we come into a leadership position, we continue operating in that same way. While consciously we say, yes, you must have a smile on your face. You must take it on with equanimity. You must take it on, ready to take on challenges. All this is conscious mind. But the subconscious mind, if that is not how the program that you fed into your subconscious mind is not the same, we are bound to land up in challenges. And we are bound to land up in the heart going duck, 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 going into various medical problems, medical issues. And stress is the biggest problem that any leader faces. Because the leader is one who always handles uncertainties. When things are going hunky-dory, you don't need leadership for that. You need leadership when things apparently they should go in one direction, but somehow for some reason they go in another direction. And that's why you need leadership to bring back everything on track or change the direction itself, to change the whole thing. Now that is easy to say, be happy. It's easy to say you must learn to change. All that is conscious mind, but it doesn't work because the subconscious mind is so powerful that it keep making you go that way, and that causes stress. So the earlier a leader learns how to tackle, how to handle, how to learn to control your mind, which is basically emotions. So somebody said we get about 60,000 thoughts in a day. Now this thought itself is very agnostic. The thought itself will not have an emotion. It's just a thought. That today is a very hot day is a thought. Now, how do you convert that hot day into an emotional response? You say, oh my God, it's very hot. Or you can say, okay, I know it's hot. Let's stay indoors and let's not go out. Or that the same heat can have different emotional responses. Is that in my control? How to give that emotional response? Or do I outsource it to my subconscious mind? The earlier I learn how to control that mind, I grow as a leader. If I do not know how to control my mind, I'll always be at the mercy of circumstances. If something happens, I will respond to it in that particular manner, in a set manner. And that becomes my habit, that becomes the way my personality works, that becomes my persona. So I always, some people get very angry at times, that's temper tantrums types. So whenever something happens, they get angry. And for the same instance, some other person might be very cool and chill, say, okay, so what? We can handle it. It's tough. The same situation, but you can get two diametric responses depending on the subconscious mind. So one can learn how to control your emotions irrespective of the changing dynamics of the world, of the business scenarios. A leader, the faster he or she learns to handle the emotions, you grow as a leader.
Right. And thank you for, picking up on that example of anger. I think I am someone who has always been guilty of
Okay.
earlier being very angry or short-tempered, as a lot of people call it. And then over a period of time and over a period of application reflections is where I have learned to be adaptable and to kind of move on to not expressing emotions as vividly as they come, perhaps manage them in a better way. So yes, adaptability is a it comes with practice. It's an aptitude or it's an attitude that a leader should have. But what always intrigued me, and this is something that is will be on a lot of leader minds, is this, that how do you build resilience, right?
Yeah.
Resilience to manage your emotions, resilience to kind of manage situations, and if you are in a larger organization, you have the support system a lot of times. But these
Yeah.
days, organizations are also kind of becoming smaller, faster, leaner, meaner, if I have to say so. And that is where a lot of issues come when it comes to dealing with resilience. So maybe some tips, Girish sir,
Yeah.
on managing with resilience.
Okay. So there's a very beautiful description given by Stephen Covey in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's a wonderful book, and I would recommend every person to go through it, not just as a book, but to literally make notes from that book as to what all you can apply in your daily work. It's a very lovely book. So one of the things in that, he says that there's a chapter on this called responsibility. That means we all of us have the ability to respond to a situation. That is responsibility. So one is reacting to a situation. Second is responding to a situation. There's a big difference in the two. So there is a few seconds this gap between reaction and a response. A reaction, like I said earlier, is a subconscious way of reacting to a situation. Response is a well thought out, well articulated, socha samjha hua thing in your subconscious mind. The challenge is, or the problem is, unfortunately, we have not been taught in our schools or in our colleges or even in our lives how to take decisions by response. Therefore, we always end up reacting. And if we are reacting to a situation, then we are slaves of a subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is reactive. It takes a decision in 50 milliseconds. So it's very fast. The conscious brain, on the other, so I'm simplifying this concept to a bare minimum, removing all scientific jargon from it. We can uh, input information to the 5 senses. So we perceive information through the eyesight. We see something, we hear something, we smell something, we taste something, or we touch something. There's only 5 methods that we can input information into the brain. Now, very simplistically, the brain takes this information and divides it into 2 parts. One part goes to what is called as the subconscious mind, or the prehistoric brain, the ancient brain, the amygdala, the hippocampus, and the reptilian brain. Now, the job of this brain is just one thing. It says, what I'm perceiving now, sensing now, has this happened previously? And it does a quick check. And to do this quick check, it takes about 50 milliseconds. So it's very fast and it gets a match. And it's okay, what do I do then that I'm alive still? Take action now. So it's more of a survival instinct. That is the subconscious brain. So it says how to survive in this topsy-turvy world. That's what uh, on the other hand, the conscious brain, which has evolved in the last 10,000, 20,000 years of evolution, is the thinking brain. It's called the prefrontal cortex or the PFC, the new brain, the neo brain, etc., which is the front area, all that gray matter, as they call it. It can think for itself. It can analyze the situation and say, okay, should I take this action? Should I take that action? Which action has a better consequence? Which is the desirable action, undesirable? All that it can do. But to do this analysis, it takes 250 milliseconds. So it's 5 times slower. Therefore, even so whatever happens in my organization, in my world, in my surroundings, my subconscious brain is very fast at taking action. And it takes action based on my upbringing and, and have no control over it. The control is in the conscious brain, but we don't let the two talk to each other. Until we learn how to do that, and one of the simplest methods of learning to do that is deep breathing. You can't get more simpler than this. Or you would have noticed when somebody gets very angry, what is the first thing you tell that person? Have a glass of water. What are you actually doing when you have a glass of water? Because when you go into a hyper mode, when you get angry, when you shout, etc., there are huge physiological changes happening in the body. One of them is dryness of the mouth. One of them is you instantly get dehydrated. Now, the subconscious brain is taking action and it's going berserk. The conscious brain says, hey, chill, yeah, we'll find out a way. Don't be so in such a hurry to take action. That's the conscious brain trying to tell the subconscious brain, saying, relax. Now you tell that person, have some water. Now that 10 seconds that you give to have water, The conscious brain talks to subconscious brain, saying, hey, chill, 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 come on, relax, 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 relax. Then you put the glass down, maybe take a deep breath. So you say, count to 10. That's another very most common method when person gets angry. Oh, you get the stuck in. Count till 10. And say, count till 1. What is actually happening in the brain? The conscious brain is quickly analyzing, okay, how do I handle this chaos that is happening around me? And it's trying to find a way out. Subconscious brain is saying, yeah, either run or fight. Because that's only two responses that or freeze. So there's only three things that it can do, either fight or flight, So it is getting ready to run or to fight. That is, both are negative ways. And now you give it half a minute of this, take a gulp of water, count to 10, deep breathing, you become calmer. And now the probability that you can handle the situation that is going berserk is now far higher than earlier. And as you do this, so meditation is one of the best methods of controlling your brain, controlling the conscious brain, subconscious brain. So if you're a regular meditator doing it properly, you'll find you're generally more calmer. I'm using the word generally because there's no 0 and 1 in this. It is generally you'll be more calmer. You'll be able to handle situations as they come, because situation every day can go out of control. There's no days are same. Every day some new thing comes up, a new issue comes up. How do you train the brain to handle these situations? How do you train the brain to accept change as it comes? There are various methods of doing. So one of the simplest methods, these two things: drink water at that time. But then this, you are reacting always as when something happens, you're drinking water. When something happens, you count to 10. That's again it's a band-aid. But to ensure you don't get into that flap itself, there are many other things one needs to do in life. And well, like I said, meditation is one very important tool by which you can always keep the brain calm and still take decisions and take tough decisions. That's very important. Yeah, so meditation, I would say, is on the top of the things.
You make it sound so easy. You make it sound so easy, but I know for a matter of fact that I've been in so many situations that it's very, very difficult to kind of manage. Would you recall some, I'm now intrigued. Would you recall some example or some real life incident that you would want to kind of walk us through where this actually happened? Because I can't imagine myself, managing things so simply. Maybe some of your experiences, maybe we could learn from.
Yeah, so I'm from the National Defense Academy, India, Khadakwasla. Then I joined the Indian Navy. In the Navy, I became a submariner. I was in the submarines for almost 17 years, mainly in operational submarines. I commanded a submarine called Shankush. And those 17 years in the submarine arm and in the Navy, 22 years also, taught us in handling, especially emergencies. Well, you're trained for handling emergencies. And I learned a lot from my previous commanding officers. So I had some fantastic commanding officers. And whenever I used to look at them, the way they would handle situations in their own ways, whenever emergencies came up, they would many a times they would be absolutely cool and calm with not an iota of fear on their face or anywhere, and they could take actions. And I was a young lieutenant at that time. I remember very vividly we had a fire in the submarine once. It was a fire that happened, and my commanding officer, I was a young lieutenant, must have had about 5 years of service only. So I was a youngster, and my commanding officer was literally absolutely cool and calm and was able to give instructions one after the other, and we got the fire under control and whatever after that. So everything was in a planned way going on. There was zero panic on the commanding officer. And that was being also because the crew had been trained to handle such emergencies. Therefore, even the crew acted in a very professional manner. And what otherwise could have been a disaster was contained and we could. That was a major lesson that I learned in front of me. And as we grew along and I became the commanding officer, of course, we did a lot of training, but that became I would say that became also my ethos that anything and many things would go wrong. A submarine is a very highly complex piece of equipment. You're underwater for a prolonged duration. You're 200 days at sea, underwater at 200 meters, etc. Things can go wrong in a jiffy. How do you handle that with all, you get trained to do that. And you can then handle any situation. So they're thinking, okay, what next? I don't know if you've seen this movie. I think the movie is Border, I think. In that movie, there is a scene where a letter has come to a Jawan. They're sitting by the river, saying, and a letter has come from his village, from I think his wife, and the two of them are sitting. I think Sunil Shetty and this Jawan is sitting. क्या कहता है बोले घर का छत उड़ गया है बाकी सब ठीक है, घर के गाय को बछड़ा हुआ है, गाय मर
Yeah.
गई है लेकिन बछड़ा सब ठीक, बाकी सब ठीक है, आज कुछ ये झमेला हो गया लेकिन बाकी सब ठीक है. I mean that life is great. So you have to have that ethos in the brain, and life is wonderful. Life is great. Problems will keep coming. Tomorrow is another day, and we'll handle this one, go to the next one. And you, at one stage, life becomes very dull if nothing is happening in your life. So some new ones, and you train the brain to handle it through various techniques. Simple, very lots of techniques are there by which you can train the subconscious mind to pause. That press the pause button, let the conscious brain decide what should be done, and then realize the conscious brain is very powerful. It's as powerful as the subconscious brain if you give it time. Unfortunately, we are not taught how to give it time. We've been taught since school, in school and college, don't you know how to do it? So they just go by one particular method. But when you learn these techniques, you realize, oh, it's so simple to take charge of one's brain, and you can, any situation, simply pause, don't react, take time off, think what are the actions, and then decide this action you take. The probability that you'll get a good response, I mean, a satisfactory response at the end of it is now far higher than doing a just an instant reaction to the situation. Actually, it is very simple once you learn all these techniques.
True, true. The more you say, and then that border reference really drew me to one of these discussions that I was watching on YouTube of MS Dhoni, where he says, "Control the controllables, and the rest will fall in place." I think
Absolutely.
that is something that is doesn't come naturally, but I think one has to adapt, one has to learn with practice.
Yeah.
Uh,
It can be trained. You can train your brain to work in that fashion. Once you know how to train it, so it's possible to train it.
Right. So we're talking more of a lot of, perhaps being aware, being adaptable, and more importantly, working on the emotional intelligence of, developing that emotional intelligence and developing that emotional quotient, and choosing how to react rather than just reacting. And I think that's the way we kind of want to look at it. Now, since we are on that subject, how do you see, let's say we're already on Gen Z, where, we are talking about Gen Alpha, and then this is the instant gratification generation, right?
Yeah.
I mean, our generation was the one that loved Maggie, and we still called it 2 minute Maggie generation. But then, this generation is the 30 second, if I don't get the story, I don't get the gist, I don't get what I need in the, 30 second shots that I'm seeing, I kind of tend to kind of react differently, right? In this sense, what is it that you would want to talk to, or you would want to kind of advise to our Gen Zs and Gen Alphas to kind of, take lessons on, or for that matter, how do they develop emotional intelligence in such a very high-paced, high-agile environment?
Yeah, so that is definitely a very current situation, and I think everybody is grappling with it. There's no leader whom I interact with nowadays doesn't have that on his agenda as to how does one tackle the youngsters coming in or that age bracket, whatever it would be, 20s, 30s. They're highly motivated to do, but like you said, instant gratification. And if history is to bear any learn lessons from history, instant gratification always also has an instant fall. We can go through any amount of historical lessons that are there. Don't have to go back into ancient history. I mean, even 10 years, even currently also, if anybody who's risen too fast also falls very fast. So one has to temper your growth, temper your expectations, because very high expectations leads to stress. And stress has severe negative connotations on the physical body. So while the youngsters are, because it's not their fault, they've been used to such environment around them, which says the school, the college, where they are bombarded always with the TV ads of instant gratification, that so and so person has done so much in so much time only, but that person only lasted for so long. It's not still a Tata's or a Birla which has lasted for 50 years and 100 years and 150 years. So one has to make a choice as to how fast I want to grow and how fast I want to fall. Logically, it is a slow and steady path. You can have its ups and downs, but overall growth should be there. Now, if in my team, if I have people who are always very, very eager to constantly do something or the other. I have to create an environment which also sustains that. At the same time, one has to educate them not just by giving knowledge. Well, it's not a problem of knowledge, it's not a problem of skill, it's a problem of attitude. So that attitude which says I want instant gratification, that is attitude which says I want results now. One has to, again, it's a subconscious thing. I need to change that somehow, that to get the workforce to say that, okay, if this takes 2 days, it will take 2 days. It won't happen in 2 hours. One has to get trained the brain. And once that happens, again, magic happens. Then you can take decisions much more faster. So it's a tough job. It's a very challenging job. It's changing the mindset of the people. Because an organization which grows too fast cannot sustain itself. So you might provide a environment which says, okay, let's grow, 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 grow. Long-term sustenance becomes a challenge. So it's about changing the mindset.
Right,
Getting back to
and that is exactly where the way you kind of make it sound, Girish sir, I think it is no surprise that your book is aptly titled Shoe. It is not a secret, right? So that is
it's not a
not a
secret.
secret. And so that kind of makes it very, very simplistic, the way you kind of put it around. And what I'm happy about is that the simplicity is something that you don't get in a lot of these transformational coaches. Sure.
One of the things we talked about is emotions. And as you realize that all of us are emotional beings. If there's one thing that can differentiate the human race from the animals, is the major emotions that we can display. Animals do not have the ability to display so many emotions. We can display emotions. There are 50 different emotions that one can display, right from happiness, sadness, anger, fear, frustration, to joy, to many of them. And we seem to be at the mercy of these emotions. And a leader is one who is able to control his or her emotions. And therefore will not be at the mercy of the situation as to what emotion I should display. Everything is about what display I give of my internal emotions. So the thoughts come first, the thoughts get converted to emotions. So the most basic emotion is happiness. How do I be happy? Unfortunately, whatever my experience of 20 years shows over here is, we outsource our happiness to something outside happening. Whereas happiness is a very internal emotion. How do I become happy completely in my internal being? My state of being should be happy. Because absence of happiness leads to sadness. It is not a 0 and 1. And going through a report, a World Health Organization report, which talks of India, 9% of our population, that's a huge number, is suffering from severe forms of stress. I mean, out of which of some 10 lakh people committed suicide. There are some 5 crore people who suffer from anxiety disorder. There are some 6 crore people who suffer from depression. That's a huge number. And this is reflective of our workforce. So if a leader has got a workforce of 100, there are many people in that who are undergoing, I'm not talking of depression level stress or anxiety stress or suicide stress, but there is still a huge gap between a productive workforce and a stressed workforce. The earlier we realize how to become happy, irrespective of the situation, the productivity of the workforce goes up phenomenally. And they're very simple techniques, what one can do to ensure that my team is very happy. And a happy team is a productive team. A very serious or a sad team will still produce. But at the end of it, you'll have more attrition rates. You'll have more people, more fights, more stresses, more heart attacks, more medical problems, all that thing will come. So it's very important that leaders learn how do I build happy teams as the baseline. And then a whole lot of things can go into it to ensure they become highly productive. That's what I thought I'll.
Thank you, Girish sir. I think now that we have covered a lot, I think we started from leaders for today. We ended on we actually covered my own personal stuff, right? So we went to the personal being. We went on to the future leaders, the Gen Z and the Gen Alphas, and very aptly very smartly you brought in the concept of HR, or for that matter HR leaders, or for that matter overall leadership in teams today. So thank you for touching that on, and I think it's been a quick yet insightful experience for me to talk to you and realize some of the things that you bring to the table, and for the rest of the day, I'll be in that zone where I'll think about all of these things that we've discussed. So thanks a lot. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having this conversation. It was really a pleasure to be interacting with you guys, and look forward to wonderful interaction with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.